This is the plastic waste from one single family from one single trip to the grocery store. And did you know that every single piece of plastic ever made still exists today in one form or another, and only 9% of it ever gets recycled? My name is Verity Noble, and I am one of the co-founders of Nude Foods Market, the most sustainable grocery store on earth, where we make it really easy for consumers to live a plastic-free life.
So tell me a little bit about why we have so much plastic in the food system. How did it get to this point, and what did it look like before all of this?
Well, before, people used to shop at farmers markets, co-ops, things where there wasn't packaging. But if you think about a traditional store, you walk in, right, and it's wall-to-wall plastic packaging designed to sell you things that are meant to be healthy or delicious or whatever. Like the packaging is shouting at you, and it's all made of plastic. And when you walk in there, if we zoom out and think about the bigger picture, that's one grocery store in one town in one country. That is replicated all over the world, and that packaging, that food, is turning over every week.
Okay, so with all of this packaging in a grocery store, where does that end up?
Unfortunately, most of it ends up in landfill. Only 9% ever gets recycled. And actually, we should call it downcycling, because plastic can only be recycled 1 or 2 times before it degrades so much that it's completely useless.
So if I recycle a plastic cup, it can't really be made back into another cup like you could with aluminum or something like that.
Exactly. And also, the big question I ask myself is, when I go shopping at a mainstream store, I don't see hundreds of things made out of recycled plastic.
Yeah.
So where is all this recycled plastic that we're diligently putting into our recycling bins going?
That is such a good point. I never thought about that.
Right?
So most of this is not getting recycled, which is truly a bummer. So what does this look like in practice?
More than 1,700 pounds of trash are being produced per person in the US.
Wow.
I think I did the math at one point, and it worked out to something like 53 garbage trucks every minute.
That's a lot of garbage.
Right?
That's crazy. So we have all of this plastic that's being used for a short amount of time, and then it's going into landfill. But is that really that big of a deal? Why should I, as a general consumer, care about plastic?
It's not just an environmental issue. It's actually a health issue, so it affects us all personally. What you probably don't realize is that every single one of us is eating, drinking, and breathing microplastics. And microplastics are what get produced when larger pieces of plastic break down, or when little plastic beads in cosmetics, there's tons of that, or one of the biggest things is the synthetic fabrics. So many clothes are made of plastic, nylon, polyester, spandex, all these things are plastic, and every time you wash them, little microplastic particles come off them and into our water systems, and that's getting into our bodies. And they found 2 teaspoons worth of microplastics in people's brains. They found it in the placenta of unborn babies. They found it in our bloodstream, and they're starting to discover that it's really detrimental to our health. They're realizing it might cause Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, all these other things. Potentially, this is the next tobacco crisis.
Wow. Okay, that is very concerning. I never thought about the fact that just using plastic would mean that I'm being personally polluted by it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit and talk about the environmental impact of plastic. So what is plastic actually made out of, and why is it such a huge environmental concern?
It's made out of oil.
Oh.
And the reason it's an environmental concern is because we are constantly extracting from the earth. I mean, I don't claim to be an expert in fracking and all these other things, but I do know that there's high risks, that it's causing damage to waterways, that it's causing damage to the population around them. And at what point are we going to stop extracting from the earth? When's it, at some point it's going to run out. Right? And so we need to find alternative ways of doing things that aren't constantly humans taking from the earth. Maybe we should learn to take a little less.
Yeah, okay, that's crazy that we're literally mining and drilling for oil and then turning that into plastic that gets used for, I don't know, a month while it sits on the shelf, maybe longer, and then discarded immediately.
Exactly. Did you know people actually have to be taught to throw away plastic?
I did not.
Yeah, in the 50s, I think it was, they brought in kind of disposable coffee cups, and people were taking them home and reusing them, and they had to be educated to just chuck them in the bin.
That's so backwards.
Right?
That's so backwards. So is all of this kind of single-use plastic epidemic, one might say, is this really a recent problem? When did this kind of shift to be how the default conventional way of doing things was very laden with plastic?
It's grown exponentially in the last few years. I think the use of it keeps doubling and doubling, and as people are wanting less oil elsewhere, the oil companies are trying to drive demand for their oil in other areas. So they are promoting the use of plastic, making it very easy to use plastic. The reason that it's grown so much is convenience, right? It's very easy to pop into a store and grab something that's wrapped in plastic, and then the mentality is I can just throw that away, but it's not actually disposable. It just, you know, you wouldn't, I don't know, grab a clock and just throw it in the bin after you've looked at the time once.
Right.
But it's the same idea.
Yeah.
The convenience factor has really driven things, and then the globalization of our food systems, with things coming from all over the world with these enormous food miles. They need to be wrapped in something to keep them as fresh as possible, and that's plastic. But of course, when it sits on the shelf and it's kept as fresh as possible, it's actually not fresh. It's kind of fakely kept looking good and nice when actually it could be weeks and weeks old.
Yeah, I would assume that the rise of plastic in our grocery system also led to the need for chemicals and preservatives to help maintain that freshness over longer periods of time.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what people can do about this. I feel like plastic is one of those things that feels like such an overwhelming problem. So what are some actionable ways that people can start to reduce plastic in their daily lives?
Great. Well, first up, if you have a Nude Foods near you, ta-da, you can shop here, and that will cut your waste at home by about 60%. The way it works is you just grab stuff off the shelf, just like a normal grocery store. The only difference is instead of putting your packaging into the earth when you're done with it, you bring it back to us and we wash it, sanitize it, and refill it. And also the nice thing is this is glass, right? So you're not having plastic touching your food all the time, which puts microplastics into it. If you don't happen to have a Nude Foods nearby, which I know a lot of people don't, unfortunately, but they will.
Yes.
They will. Then there are many bulk refill stores where you can go and actually refill your own containers, you can take your own bags, you can shop at farmers markets and make sure you request things just unbagged. When you go to a mainstream grocery store, take your own produce bags, or just don't put things in bags at all, right? I find it honestly astounding that people put lots of their vegetables in these little plastic bags.
Especially things like avocados and
right?
bananas.
Or bananas. They don't have, they already
wrapper.
have a skin on them. They have a wrapper. And also I think the checkout person knows the difference between a banana and some grapes or whatever.
Right.
So we don't need to separate them. We can just throw them all in. I've actually, once when I forgot my produce bag, I filled my pockets with green beans because I had nowhere else to put them. And then I got them out and paid for them, put them back in my pockets. They thought I was insane, but it worked. You can be really creative with what you do. When you're going to the coffee shop, take your own mug or take a beat and have coffee in. Skip the takeout. I find takeout like so hard anyway because it takes me ages to work out where I want to get takeout from, and then I have to call them and make the order, and then when it arrives it's so much packaging and everything else, and then it doesn't ever taste as good. I'd rather just go to the restaurant and eat, and then I don't have to clear up. Or cook myself at home using zero waste ingredients, and then there isn't any trash, and generally it's going to be healthier because I know what went in it. Then if you do shop at a mainstream grocery store, which most of us do, then choosing items in glass, in metal, in paper bags, in compostable packaging, not only means there's less plastic, but it's also sending a message to the people packaging the food. This is what we prefer. And the more of a message consumers send, like we have power. By our spending dollars, we have power to force people to find new ways of packaging things that are better for the environment and better for our health.
This actually brings up a great point. When you envision a perfect world that has less or minimal plastic, to get there, where does this power come from? Does it come from people making individual decisions? Does it come from institutions changing how they do things? What do we need in order to get to that end goal of having less plastic?
It's a great question. All of the above. I mean, I wish institutions would make the changes, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think, yeah, law would be a great way to change things, making producers responsible for the stuff they produce, that they have to deal with it. I mean, I know in Colorado we now have a producer responsibility law of some kind where producers are responsible for paying for the waste that they create. But I think it's kind of, a top up, bottom down type scenario
All
where
mixed
consumers
around.
are creating the demand and then the producers are kind of acting on that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
For that. Is there anything else that you want to tell our viewers, our listeners, our readers about
Yes.
plastic? Is there any ways that we can help support them further in this journey, or any other
Absolutely.
resources?
So I run the 21 Day Zero Waste Challenge, and it's a really easy way to reduce your plastic waste one step at a time. So it's 21 days of bite-sized little challenges to do. So if you want to sign up for the 21 Day Challenge, you can see the link below this, and I hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for everything.
Lindsay.
This is part of our educational series. So if you are interested in learning more about any topic within the food system and how it pertains to sustainability, be sure to like, follow, and click the link in our bio. We have a webpage where you can go and subscribe to newsletters with bite-sized amounts of content, as well as get our deeper dives.